Hey students, welcome back. Professor H. I hope you guys had a good couple of weeks catching up and getting quiz 3 done. I just want to say a sincere thank you to all of you again and let you guys know that I realize this has probably been a challenging semester for some of you. Doing a class like this online is really challenging. It's difficult for me to teach it, knowing that all of you are using different versions of Excel. And all of you have different functionality. So I want to say thank you for your patience and remind you guys again that you have been a little bit of a guinea pig class. Typically, this class gets taught face-to-face or in a hybrid format. So this is the first time that Delta has offered it completely online in a very long time. And it's my first time teaching it completely online. And I'm just learning a whole lot from all of you and thinking about what I am going to do differently next semester to make sure that everybody has a really good experience. So thank you again. Know that in my grading of your assignments and anything that you're having trouble on, I am trying to be incredibly fair. So if you have questions or concerns, please just reach out to me. I'm like reading your emails, I'm intaking your information, I'm thinking about solutions, and I'm trying to answer all of your questions, even though it's really difficult when I can't see exactly what you're seeing on your screen. So hang in there. We've got 5 weeks left. I have faith that all of you guys can do this. I'm very happy with how your quizzes have been coming in. The last quiz was really strong grades. I have faith that the upcoming quiz will be the same. So I wanted to start off by looking at our study guide. Our next quiz will focus on 3 and 4. See if I can get my cursor going here. So this is quiz 4. So studying everything that we just did last module for quiz 3 and everything for quiz 4 is going to be fair game. I like to review module 3 as part of the quiz 4 study guide because these are the really complex functions. So we're kind of getting away from the easy stuff and getting into the really technical things. So I like to have this review of all the module 3 material as well as build on it with material from module 4. So today, or this week rather, you're going to learn to create a digital signature. I wanted to make sure that y'all know when you go to insert a digital signature, some versions of Excel may prompt you to pay for it, to insert it. Do not pay for anything. It's very odd. It will ask you to pay for it. It may not look like it shows up in your assignment, but when you submit it and I open it, they almost always show up correctly. I'm not going to be too picky about the digital signature. I just want all of you to know that it's an option for those of you that are going to use Excel to garner digital signatures in the future. It is a feature of Excel. If your company is requiring you to acquire digital signatures, they will pay for a full-blown version of Excel that allows you to do this without prompting to pay for it. So just know that that may happen. If it does, just leave me a little note in the comment of your homework. But I guarantee you that when I open it, I bet it'll show up anyway. That's almost always the case. Just a fair warning. There is a video on creating a digital signature, and since I'm not going to test on that on the test because of that little snafu where it might ask you to pay for it, I just want you to practice doing it for homework. Again, it won't be on the test. For that reason, I'm just going to leave it to the online video tutorial. The one I've posted from YouTube is sufficient to get you guys through that lesson. So nothing else about digital signatures. I am going to demo how to do the 3D reference today. I've also posted another video tutorial on this. I like to give y'all different videos to watch. Some things click with different types of people, and I like to show it happening in different versions of Excel. So I will model that on your homework. You guys already know how to do all of this. We went over all of that in the last module study guide. So there's just these new things. I will demo how to filter records today. And I will also show you how to create a data validation list today. So we're working through quite a bit. And the next couple of weeks will just be sort of practicing and reviewing these really technical skills. So let's pull up one of the homework assignments first. So let's start with the discussion. So what I wanted to show you in the discussion, sorry, I'm clicking around so much, was this specific piece here. I never really talked to you all about how to format plot areas in our last module, so I want to make sure that you see that this time. So we're going to go ahead and take this. Our assignment this week asks us to fill in a chart. I think I asked you to do the line on secondary axis one. I can't really remember, but I wanted to make this really clear. So there are several components of a chart. When you click on the chart, right now I have the entire chart selected. Okay, then we know that we can select the actual data and we are able to format this. I'm sure all of you remember you can format the data series. We're waiting for our dialog box. And you all know that you can fill this to look different, right? So we could make the little bars polka dots. Let's do this. Okay, so we know that we can format our data series. We can format the chart as a whole. Then there is an inner part of the chart called the plot area. The plot area is this inner square here where the actual data is plotted. Okay, so do you see how now all of a sudden I have a secondary rectangle selected here? This inner rectangle is the plot area. I would call this outer piece the chart area. It's inclusive of the entire chart. This is just inclusive of the plot area. So do you see the inner rectangle? That is the plot area. So I might ask you just to format the plot area. You can format the chart area or the plot area separately. So notice when I right click, I actually have an option to format the plot area. You will know that you have the plot area selected when you see that option come up when you right click. So I think I asked you guys on the homework to do a gradient fill. So right off the bat, you just go to fill, you select gradient, and you can choose the direction, right? We talked about this. You can make it go from the middle and be gradient. So then it sort of emanates out of the middle. I'm not too picky about how you do the gradient fill this week. I just want you to get experience with specifically formatting this inner area. And you know that you can always change the color down here. So we could go like orange, and we could move the orange over here and make all of it orange. We could put the orange on different sides. So that's the gradient fill and the plot area. Okay, so we've sort of checked that one off of our list. Next, we are going to go to 3D references. So 3D references are a great shortcut. They can also be a little tricky, and I want to acknowledge that. So let's go back to our module. See exactly what I asked you to do in this discussion. Go ahead and open. Sorry, my computer's going super slow. Okay, so on the total sheet, we want to create a 3D reference that sums all of the sheets. Okay, so that sounds like a tall order and it sounds scary. I'm going to exit this now that we already did this. And it sounds scary when you've never done this before. So we see that we have a total at the bottom of every sheet. I'm going to tell you right now, 3D references do not work across multiple sheets unless what you want to add up is in the same cell on every single sheet that you're utilizing. So if you go through these, you'll notice that I have intentionally built these exercises for you to show that the total is in the same cell on every sheet. So it should be an E14 on every sheet. Okay, and it is. So the first thing I ask you to do is go to your totals tab and build these formulas. So what we're going to do here is we are going to go equals sum, okay, because we're looking for a total, so we're adding things up. And we need to total everything between sheet 1, and you have to get it exactly as it appears, and sheet in the very last sheet. And our last sheet is 51818. You ask Excel to add everything between the two sheets up by inserting a colon here. and then you type the name of the very last sheet exactly as it appears here, 518.18. After that, we are going to put an explanation point. For those of you that have done statistics classes, think of this kind of like a factorial, like we're adding everything that came before 518.18, which is why it's denoted by the explanation point. Then the last thing we have to do is figure out the cell that we're referencing. So remember that I said it was E14. We want the total of all sheets between 131.18 and 518.18, and the total for each sheet is in E14. So we're going to go back here. We are going to type in our cell, E14. We're going to close our parentheses, and we're going to hit enter. And you'll notice that it automatically did what we wanted it to do. It summed up every single E14 sheet. So this saves you from having to flip between the sheets and add up with a calculator all of the numbers in cell E14. So 3D references are quite cool in that way. They allow you to go and add up data across multiple sheets very quickly. If you had 5 years of data, you would not want to go through 5 years worth of tabs or sheets and try to add things up. So 3D references are a shortcut. I'll do one more as a demo with you. Okay, so let's try this one. So the next one would be, we want the total of sheets 316 through 54. So we would literally go equals, and again, we're looking for a sum here. Open our parenthesis. And we start with the sheet that we're asking about. So this time I'm asking you just for the total of the sheets labeled 2,918, colon, oops, we got to get it right first, 2,918, colon, 2,4,6,18. Okay, don't forget your explanation point, your little factorial, and then we're going to reference the same cell since we're still looking for a total here. So that would still be E14, but this time it's only going to add it up for the sheets that we told it to right here. So it's only adding between 2,9 and 4,6. We close the parenthesis, we hit enter, it does the same thing. It looks like this number is smaller than this number, which makes sense, right? Because we only did about half the sheets. So that's a 3D reference. 3D references are really simplified. I kind of started you guys off with a complicated example. These tabs have sort of tedious names with all of the dots and the dates. 3D references work really easily if your sheets are labeled something simple like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That makes typing in this piece much easier because it would look something like, just for example, if they were all, whoops, I'm switching our formula here. Oopsies. Let me hit undo, undo. Fixing a faux pas here really quickly, just so I don't confuse any of you. Okay, so it would look something like this if your sheets were labeled A, B, C, D. You would literally just go, oh, I want the sum of everything between sheet A and Z. You would put an explanation point and you would put whatever cell it was and close it. So obviously that looks a lot easier than what we had to type to get these with all the dated sheets. Okay, so that's 3D reference. The final thing we are going to do is I'm going to go back to a sheet over here. I asked you guys to build a data validation list. I did not ask you to do it in this homework assignment, but I am going to demo it in this homework assignment. I actually asked you to do it on your spend tracking, so make sure that you do this in the right assignment. So what I asked you to do is I asked you to gather up your categories and create a data validation list. So a data validation list essentially creates a drop-down list so that you don't have to continually write in the same things over and over and over again. This is really good if any of you work with data entry. For example, if you are tracking certain kinds of sales for your company or orders and you only sell 3 things, like maybe you only sell pens, pencils, and paper. Instead of having to write in pens, pencils, and paper every time somebody makes an order, you can create a data validation list. So I'm going to show you how. So just for example, let's say that these are the categories that you have for your spend track budget assignments. Let's say that you have groceries and you have shopping, and let's say you drink a lot of coffee, so you made that its own category. Then let's say you have bills, maybe you have gas for your car, maybe you have entertainment like going to the movies or something like that. Then maybe you have fast food, and let's say then you have, what else do folks spend money on? Let's say the rest of it is like miscellaneous expenses. So let's say these are your categories. This is what you need to do to create a data validation list. So first, you name the list. You highlight the items that need to go in the list, and you have to give this list a name. We are going to right-click, and we are going to click Define Name. Then we are going to name the list. We are going to name our list categories. That's what I'm going to name it for this. Notice that it refers to just the cells that I have highlighted here. These are the only items going in this list. Okay, and the list has been named categories. I click OK. Darn it. This is a bad way to give you guys an example because I already did this earlier. Let's name it spending instead. Okay, so ignore the little error we just got. I was demoing this earlier and already created a list with that name. So it's spending. We click OK. Okay, so now a list exists. You can always tell if you have named your list and what you have named it by highlighting the things in the list. And when you go over here, its name will appear. When I click off of that, the name goes away and just tells you what cell you're in. I'm in cell I4 right now, so that's what's highlighted. But if I highlight all these items together, this name box tells me that this list is called spending. Very important. Okay, so now I'm going to go to where I want to put the data validation. So I'm going to insert a drop-down list here. I'm going to go to my data tab up on my top navigation ribbon here. You go to data. You are going to go over to data validation. We want to insert a data validation list. We get a dialog box for data validation. Instead of allow any value, we are going to go select list. We just named this list and now we're inserting a list. Then it says source. This is very important. Your data validation list will not work if you do not put an equal sign before the name of your source. And when it asks for source, it's asking for the name of the list that you want to apply. We named our list spending. The other very important thing to know about data validation lists, you will not get them to work if you don't have the equal sign, and you will not get them to work if you accidentally spell the name of the list incorrectly. So if you spell it incorrectly when you name it, you have to spell it incorrectly here. So make sure that you're very careful when you name your list, that you spell it correctly, and then you spell it correctly here. We're now going to click OK. You're going to know that your list has been entered when you see an arrow here. It almost looked like nothing happened, but it did actually work. When we click this arrow, we're going to see our categories here. To apply this list to an entire column, we can now just drag it down. Yes, they all say groceries, but when we click on them individually, we can change them to the other categories. So let's say when you go back to your spend track spreadsheet, I want you to make your new revised categories, the ones that you came up with a couple weeks ago, into a data validation list, and I want you to apply a data validation list with dropdowns to your entire spreadsheet going back to the first day of class. So I want you to put this in and then select all the categories manually like this. This is really good practice on how to do something that's very technical. But this is a really impressive skill. If people know how to do this and some of the other functions that we're getting to in the next couple weeks of class, I typically say that they have a very good command of Excel. So that one is a little confusing. There is another tutorial. If you want to watch another YouTube video on it, there's one in the weekly readings and videos. But that is how you do the data validation list. You write out your categories kind of in a separate space. You can even do it on a separate empty tab if you want to. You highlight the list. You click define name. You name it. You click OK. Then you go over to where you want to insert it. Go to data validation, click data validation. And then remember, you have to go from any value to list. And then you have to have an equal sign before your source, and you have to spell the name of the source exactly as you spelled it when you named it. And then it will work. And just know, you got to look for this little arrow, because sometimes it looks like, oh gosh, I went through all the steps and nothing happened. If the little arrow is present, you did it right. And so just click that and you should see all of the items in your list. Okay, so that's a lot of new content, and it's a lot of sort of time-consuming technical content, so I'm going to leave you all to it. Please reach out to me via email if you all have questions. Otherwise, have a good week, and look forward to seeing your assignments on Sunday.